Hey guys, Saul here. I wanted to do a quick video, kind of a reacts video, although they are there are way too many of these anywhere. But one of the things that I don't think people realize is when they think of a vegetable oil or seed oil is really what it is, because usually they take some sort of a seed or a grain and then they squeeze it and they do a whole bunch of other things to it to make sure that it is edible. So, so I wanted to do a video on canola oil. And so I'm just going to cut right to this video, and I'll stop it a little bit, but wanted to show you what that looks like to, uh, you know, how they actually make canola oil. And, then you guys can tell me, hey, that seems like a natural process, or that seems not such a bad thing. But let's go ahead and take a look at the tape, see what that looks like. All right, so here is the canola oil. This is a few steps in. This is when they first started. Now, let me tell you what they start with. They grow something called, excuse me, rapeseed. Now, rapeseed is a seed that is not edible in and of itself. So they have genetically modified rapeseed to make it a low acid seed so they can even start to use it for human consumption. Because if they just took the original rapeseed and they did not genetically modify it, you would not be able to eat it because it would be poisonous, which is no good. So anyway, so that is where they start. And then what they do from there is they go and they start to crush it. So they mill it down, and that's where this video starts. Well, I've moved forward past some of the other stuff, and then just gotten right into well, let's start here a little bit. So you can see these darker brown pieces are the actual seed, and then this is basically the rest of the plant that gets sifted out. So let's look at that. So they sift it and work on it to kind of sift the actual seeds out a little bit, and this whole sifting process, and then it gets up the chaff, which is these little bits that are excess of the plant, and it goes up to the top because it's shaken, and then it, they get rid of that stuff, right? They do talk about how they use all of these things for all different things. They don't actually let any bit of it go to waste. And we can talk about that once we get to some places on what they actually do with the waste. So that was a picture of the seeds by themselves, and then here's all the chaff, and then they use that also, but that's not really where the oil comes from. That's just all this excess stuff elsewhere. So then they take it and they crush all of the seeds into these oil. The seeds are about 42% oil. In the crushing process, they get about 75% of that oil out of the crushing process, and then it gets this, which turns into this little cake stuff. The cake stuff is about 25% oil, and then it's also about 75% of solids that they want to get rid of. They're actually high in protein solids, and so they end up using the solids for pet food that we feed our animals, whether it's, cows or dog food or whatever, they put it all into there. And so this is that, but first they need to get all the excess oil out of there. And so, because they don't want to give up their 25% of the oil that they have the opportunity to get out of it. So after the crushing, they have the cake, and then they pull out the additional oil by running that cake through a solution of hydrogen or sodium hydroxide. And it basically pulls the rest of that 25% of the oil out of the, cake, the rapeseed cake that was made by crushing it. And so far, that's how they've gotten all that stuff, and they've gotten 100% of the oil out at this point. So they're going along, they get all the 100% of the oil out there, and then they, put it into large storage tanks until it's ready to be refined. and however long that be. I don't have any clue on how long it sits in these big tanks before it gets refined. But it's not ready for human consumption or consumption of any kind at this point in time. Um, so they store it until they're ready to refine it. In the refining process, the original first piece is they take it and they put it into these cylindrical heated, basically washes, like hot washes, and they hot wash it for 20 minutes in an additional sodium hydroxide uh, uh, solution. And so they, to, clean it up, so to speak, and they do that for 20 minutes. So there's more sodium hydroxide in there. And then moving on to the next piece. And that helps clean up some of the sediment. And so you get a little bits of it that come out and they run through a centrifuge and they get the sediment that helps it make it a little bit clearer. So they do that. And then if you look at this next one down here, it's a lot clearer at this point, but it's still kind of milky looking. So at this point, what they need to do is they need to de-wax it. And so they cool it down until the wax turns to solids, and then they pull that wax out, which you think, okay, well, they pulled the wax out. That's, but you know what they do with this wax? They turn that into shortening. So it's, which is turned into vegetable shortenings like Crisco and things like that. This right here is where Crisco comes from. So they don't throw away anything, which I guess is good, other than they take what should be waste and turn that into an additional product. So this is the is turned into vegetable shortening, and that is the wax that they don't want in the oil itself. From that step, they actually show a little bit here where they go to a lab and they do some lab work to make sure that everything is going right, and they do it kind of on a miniature scale to make sure that each batch is up to their standards. But then after that, because the oil is still not actually able to be consumed, mainly because, they just talk right through it because I have the sound off so I don't get any weird strikes or anything. So what they do at this point is the rapeseed oil, they've taken the wax out. They actually take bleach and they bleach it so it turns into that super clear oil. So they've taken the wax out, they bleach it so it comes very light, and that's what you see in the store. And then in addition to that, once they bleached it, they take a chemical and they deodorize it. So they run it through this whole system with steam and some other chemicals, and they deodorize it because it would be such a pungent, concentrated, nasty smell if you actually got it in its original form before they deodorize it. So, and then at that point, it is available to be bottled in the clear bottles. What's interesting about the clear bottles is that lets sunlight and other light get on it, and so it actually helps it oxidize much, much faster. So it becomes an oil that is rancid much quicker because it's not in the dark bottles, and it's also in plastic. So if you're worried about microplastics and you're worried about getting rancid oil, don't put your stuff in a clear bottle. You want to get stuff that is actually in especially when it's a vegetable oil that is very fragile and oxidizes very quickly. Originally, when they bottle this stuff, it can't have more than 0.05% of trans fats. But when these oils actually oxidize, that trans fat percentage shoots up into, basically not good for consumer products volumes and stuff. So it's kind of crazy that it, just comes to you and you're able to buy it right off the shelf. And so that is the process of making canola oil. Now, talked about that, and I'll separate these videos later maybe, but what I wanted to do was demonstrate, not even with me, right? Just I'm going to go ahead and go to ChatGPT, and I'm going to ask it a few questions about the amount of vegetable oils and some other things. Well, first let's do the vegetable oil thing and just how much. Well, I'll show you. So let's ask ChatGPT in the United States, on average, how much seed slash vegetable oils are consumed daily per capita? And let's see what it says. In the United States, per capita, about 80 to 90 grams per day, which is about 3 ounces. And it gives some, so that's the average. Total annual vegetable oil consumption is about 84 to 88 pounds per person. Daily average is about 80 to 90 grams, which is about 700 to 800 calories of vegetable oil, right? And so let's take a normal food that actually is something that we might be able to eat, right? And so let's say you're just doing this all corn oil, right? So you've got 90 grams of corn oil, right? Now, the reason I'm picking corn oil is because if you went and you tried to eat, well, I'll ask it about, since this video has been about canola oil first, I'm going to ask it about canola oil first, and then we can see what that looks like. And then maybe after that, we'll do soybean oil as well. So I'll be like, how many, let's say, grams of rape seed are required to make 90 grams of canola oil. All right, let's see what ChatGPT says about this. And I'm just doing this off. I've not done this before. All right, oil content is 40 to 45% of weight. Oil extraction is about 95%. If canola seeds contain 40% oil, that means that you need to eat 225 grams of rape seeds a day. And keep in mind, 225 grams is about 8 ounces. That's half a pound of rape seeds per day that you need to eat to match the equivalent of the amount of seed oils that we eat on a daily basis, which is a pretty crazy thing. Would you eat? Now, rape seeds happen to be poisonous in their natural state. So, it's an idea, but that's still half a pound of poisonous seeds that you have to eat to be able to get your 90 grams of rapeseed oil or, canola oil. All right, let's ask it, how much corn is required to make 90 grams of corn oil? Now, corn oil, not the top vegetable oil in the world that we actually eat, but it is something that we can eat outside. So let's say, does it only take like 2 ears of corn or 1 ear of corn? Normally, I would imagine most of us, when we sit down, we actually will eat an ear of corn, right, at a meal. But we're not going to eat 1.8 kilograms or 4 pounds of corn kernels. And so the reason I bring this up is if you actually on a daily basis ate 4 pounds of corn kernels, which is, I don't even know how many ears of corn, how many ears of corn are required to make 4 pounds of corn kernels. Oops, I misspelled kernels, even though it's right in front of me. All right, let's see how many pounds of 4 pounds of corn kernels. So you would have to eat somewhere around 14 to 18 ears of corn a day to get the same amount of corn oil that you get in a daily basis from this concentrated processed oil. And so in the wild, in nature, would you ever sit down and eat 14 or 18 ears of corn? You wouldn't, right? So it's very unnatural amounts of this this oil that you're actually going to get into your system. And so, let's look at the last one. Let's look at soy, because soy happens to be about 40 to 60% of the U.S. Consumption of vegetable oils. So let's see how much soybeans are required for 90 grams of soybean oil. All right, let's see what it comes up here. And mind you, I have not done this before, so I'm literally just doing this on the cuff, asking ChatGPT to give me the calculations and give me an estimation on how much soy you would actually have to eat to get the amount of soybean oil that we on average in America eat every single day. Now, if you don't know, soybean oil happens to have a structure in it that is an estrogen mimicking structure. And so it can actually have deleterious effects on your estrogen hormone. So if you're a guy, that's not good because you shouldn't have excess estrogen in your body. And can be completely open. If you're a girl, you don't want excess estrogen in your system because you're going to end up having some really bad effects that come from your actually having that much estrogen mimicking compounds in your body. So let's say you eat your daily allowance or your average daily amount of soybean oil, and that means in order to make that happen, you're going to have about 1 pound of soybeans to every single day to eat the same amount of vegetable oil. Now, does that sound like a natural thing that you would do in your life? No, right? And so it is something that, just as an illustration, I don't think that we've really put a lot of thought into why we want to avoid some of these soybean oils. One, they are highly processed, right? I bet you if I went back and looked at a video of how is olive oil made, well, olives, you literally just press them, right? You cold press them. You don't have to do anything to it. You might have to do some stuff. I'll do a video on that. Let's go look at that sometime. But basically, to get oil out of an olive, you press it and then it is edible at that point. In fact, they don't really do a lot of stuff to it because they want you to get those original flavors in the original extra virgin olive oil that you taste. And that stuff is the more expensive stuff. The stuff that they repress and repress and repress in Europe is considered lamp oil. if you repress it so many times that it comes out super clear, which is actually not very good for you because it's kind of the worst of the uh, uh, olive oils. But that first press is the stuff that they try to take care of and sell it for a higher price. So anyway, that is my video on canola oil. And then we went into a little bit of how much you have to actually eat of these things to be able to get the amount of oil in your diet every single day. Nobody's going to go eat half a pound of poisonous rape seeds. Nobody's going to go eat 14 to 18 ears of corn every single day. And nobody is going to eat a pound of soybeans to make sure that they get that amount of, this oil that comes out of these seeds and grains to make sure that we get enough of the oil in our diet every single day. But man, it's in everything that we have. If you look up here at the very beginning of my chat, when I asked, it says it's sources of seed oils intake: processed foods, chips, crackers, baked goods, fast food, fried foods, dressing, sauces, restaurant cooking oils, margarines, and vegetable oil spreads. And all of those are things that are very fragile and are, as they are used and heated, they turn into trans fats and become poisonous. And that's why, one of the reasons why we have such a sick society. 60% of children are obese in the United States. That is not a sustainable number. So anyway, just on the high note, that is my video on what it's like to process a vegetable oil, and then how much of that oil we get in our diets on a daily basis, and then how much of that vegetable and or seed or grain you would actually have to eat in order to get that amount of oil in your diet. And let's be honest, nobody wants to have that BM that comes after eating 18 ears of corn. All right, I will catch you in the next one. If you like this video, give me some other ideas on a video. Let me know, and I will talk to you soon.